we're going to give them another list. Well, they still have a list from Mar-a-Lago. Now they have a list from Mar-a-Lago and Cascada. Now they have a list from Mar-a-Lago, Cascada, and from Parkland Bay. And it keeps happening over and over again. And to think that we're having a discussion with them and anything's going to change, nothing has been different in the 7 years. So at some point, this city, and I wanted to bring this up at this meeting because there is another commission, and I don't want them to say, like we're hearing some stuff tonight, like they don't know anything about this. We do know about this, and we either get better systems in place or we get a better stick, because the carrot didn't work 7 years ago and it's not going to work now. And anybody who's telling you the carrot's going to work now and they're going to be given a list and they're going to do it has not learned. When somebody shows you who they are, you believe them the first time. We are not on the first time. We are not on the third time. And so I am asking very strongly once again, and I've noticed Lennar has not come in front of us. I'm sure they're waiting their time for their preferred candidates to be up on this dais. But I am holding this city, I'm putting the city on notice, I'm putting the future commission on notice, and I'm putting the residents on notice. This is not okay anymore. And we cannot keep having developments that are going to get built where we're having these same issues over and over again. The wedge, we have Lennar probably coming in front of the future commission for the additional acreage that's out there, the 60-something, 70-something acres. What's going to be different next time? What's going to be different next time? That's how we need to start thinking now of what...
I don't know if we can, and I guess I turn to Anthony, but I would like to make a motion that we put a moratorium on permits in the wedge for at least the next 180 days so that we can figure out whether or not what we need to do, how we need to change our code so we can have those conversations. And that's my motion.
I'll second that.
A little confused about something, and I would like a clarification, and I would like it right now, Anthony. So we've had this conversation privately multiple times. I've had this conversation with Andy multiple times. Andy's not on. I've spoken to Swande. I've spoken to Nancy. I've been told more times than I can count that we can't legally do that because of whatever legal jargon you've shared with me or Andy has shared with me in the beginning. And I want everybody to understand this clearly. In the beginning, when Mar-a-Lago started, everything was done based on COs. But when it was done based on COs, it hurt the people who were about to move, lose on a home, and have no place to live and get their children into schools. So we were aware that there were issues, but we didn't want to hurt the people that were moving in because not every single house had an issue and people needed to move into their homes. That's when we went from going from COs to permits, because permits, if you understand development, do not affect a new buyer about to close on their home. So I'm confused by council right now and by staff, because as the mayor did share, because we've been serving on the dais for a long time together, as well as several of us that have all been through this, and I think it's very unfair to say that this is a city problem when this is something we've been trying to resolve from day one. I think it's also unfair to say that we've been ignoring the residents, because we have not ignored the residents. I have not ignored the residents, and I don't want to be put in a position to say I've been ignoring the residents, because I've been out there. I speak to the residents, I speak to our team, I speak to our lawyers, and I'm just a little confused as to why now you're saying we could look into it, why we weren't given this as a go-ahead 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and all of the conversations that we've had now. So is this happening because this is an election? Are things being said now because there's an election? I think that's a very unfair position to put the homeowners in and to put everybody else on the dais in. So I do feel there's a safety issue. There has been a safety issue. This has been a concern for many, many years, but the way that this is being handled right now, I think is very wrong, because this is being made an election issue instead of an issue about the residents and about all of the good things that we have done that are not being addressed. When to say that just having a conversation isn't going to solve things, but a conversation starts things to get things solved. So to say that we've done nothing for 8 years, that's not fair. To say that the residents are having a problem, oh yes, that's fair. And that's been something that we've been trying to solve. And from council and from every single city manager we have had, and council, both councils, we were told that we could not come on this dais, which is what I'm going to do right now, and say what happened in Mar-a-Lago and what happens in Cascada and what happens in Parkland Bay and what happens in the developments of the 69 acres of Gator Acres, NSID, and Sabra, that we can't commingle them because it wasn't legal. So now why am I being told that it's potentially legal when I've been screaming about this for years? And that's my question. Why is it changing now? Because there's an election?
Anthony? I don't know what the question is.
There's an election? Well, with this entire motion, I'm very uncomfortable with everything that I've been told tonight. I'm very uncomfortable with everything that I've discussed with my city council, with my city staff, because this has been asked. I don't have enough fingers and toes to say how many times I have brought this up, sent pictures in, spoken to our city attorneys, spoken to our staff about this. But it's just very awkward that this is brought up tonight on the mayor's last night during an election, and why all of a sudden now this is a possibility. Well, if it can be done, then I say let's do it. But what I am going to say is whoever ends up being on this new commission, being on this new dais, that things are done and explained by the entire staff much more clearly, much more openly, much more transparently, not only when we have our one-on-ones and we meet with council, but when we sit on the dais. And I hope that going forward, whoever is here, and I plan on it being me, that the whole direction goes in another direction, because I am not happy. Because if there was any way that we could have helped these residents a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, we would have done it. So I'm going to vote yes, but I needed to make that statement because I don't like the way this all laid out.
Well said, Commissioner Kagan. So you're a yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marison,
Yes.
Mayor Hanchowski.
Yeah, and I would just like to be very clear. I am not in an election right now. I was the one that asked for this item to be brought up. This is something that we sort of were touching on back in August. Lennar has now not come in front of us since that time. There were comments being made that there were threats when we were asking them to be held to their agreement. And my concern, and the reason I brought this up tonight, is I want to make sure that whoever is up here in the future has a very clear understanding, a very thorough understanding of what the issues are, and not some of these checklists that Lennar keeps being given. And with that, I very strongly vote yes for this and show that it passes 5-0.